Assassinations during the Civil Rights era. The 1960s was an era of great change and great courage. During the 1960s, people from across America rose up and demanded reform. They wanted desegregation, free speech, and the progress of civil rights. Men such as Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X led the nation in its push for equal justice of all races. Great leaders rose up, but their impact was cut short by violence and assassination. In a time full of social upheaval, people fought passionately for what they believed in. Malcolm X was another famous leader of the civil rights movement during the 1960s. He believed African Americans had the right to defend themselves by any means necessary, resulting in a more militant approach to reform. He combined Islam with black nationalism and sought to encourage disadvantaged blacks. After having some conflict with the Nation of Islam, Malcolm X left and opposed Elijah Muhammad. 3 Nation of Islam members then attacked X while he was speaking, killing him with 21 gunshot wounds. Only one murder was identified, Talmadge Hire. Malcolm X is still remembered as one of the most influential African Americans in history because he was pivotal to the Black Power movement. He raised the self-esteem and focused on reconnecting them with their heritage. Martin Luther King Jr. was one of the most famous advocates for civil rights in the 20th century. He was a powerful speaker, a persuasive writer, and an inspiring leader to those desperate to be heard. He organized many nonviolent protests and mass demonstrations to further the cause of civil rights. One of these demonstrations was the March on Washington, where King gave his famous I Have a Dream speech to over 250,000 people. However, tragedy struck on April 4, 1969, when MLK was shot dead while standing on his balcony in Memphis, Tennessee. Fingerprints found his apartment matched those of James Earl Ray, who was sentenced to 99 years in prison. King's murder ignited many outbreaks of racial violence, resulting in over 40 deaths. His murder fueled the growth of the Black Power movement and the Black Panther Party. Robert Kennedy was the United States Attorney General, who then decided to run for Senate, being elected in 1965. When the 1968 presidential election came around, Kennedy decided to run for the Democratic Party.
He was perceived as the only person in politics capable of uniting the people and was supported by the minorities because of his devotion to the civil rights cause. After winning the California presidential primary, Kennedy was shot at the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles.
He was shot multiple times by Saran, a 20-year-old Palestinian, and died the next day. Saran confessed to the crime and spent the rest of his life in prison. He testified that he began to hate Kennedy after learning of his support for Israel. This death shocked Americans and sent the country into mourning. Kennedy was a well-loved candidate, and his integrity and ideals are what he was remembered by. He wanted to unite the country, a goal that was carried through by others after his death. The 1960s was a turbulent time for Americans. With the sudden death of many strong leaders, everything seemed unsure. Civil rights leaders had a massive impact even after their deaths. These people are remembered for their dedication to society and their ideals they died for.